Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation and Happy New Year. Previously, we looked at the top 10 overall DC Multiverse figures of 2022. Today, we're narrowing our focus to the denizens of Gotham City. Not Batman himself, though. He's going to be getting his own video. Also, this list is limited to figures I personally own, so some of your favorites might not be included. That said, just because I own them doesn't mean I got around to reviewing them, so for any figure that didn't get its own review, I'll be doing a mini review here. And now, my top 10 DC Multiverse Batman related, but not Batman himself, action figures of 2022. Number 10. Deathstroke. He comes in a single carded window box. On the side we can see this is the Rebirth version, and on the back we see some really amazing artwork that, if we're honest, the figure doesn't really live up to. Don't get me wrong, it's good, but just look at all that detail. I think some of my issue with the figure is the orange. Is he an assassin or a sanitation worker? Either way, I take out the trash. Obviously I really like orange. It's just kind of Crayola clownfish to me, especially compared to the Arkham Origins version. If that's a comparison you'd like to see, let me know in the comments and maybe I'll do a versus. What I like about the figure and what redeems it is just how clean and simple it is. At a distance, it's just a good, clean Deathstroke. It's when you zoom in that you see all the textures and piping and other McFarlaneizations. It doesn't distract from the figure at all and does make it feel a lot more like a real costume. Another thing I'm not crazy about is a very common McFarlane thing where they continue the diaper over the belt line instead of letting the belt be the cut. One thing I do like is that not only does he come with a nice little knife, he does have a working sheath for it. Same thing here for his sword. Here's the sword, by the way. It slides in like so, and does look pretty natural. More natural than this one anyway. Unfortunately, despite being a Rebirth Deathstroke, he's way too tall for Rebirth Batman. Although really that's more of a criticism of this Batman than Deathstroke. 3 Jokers is fine though. A solid 10, but with some paint tweaks could have been a lot higher. Number 9. Carrie Kelly Robin. Carrie Kelly is my second favorite Robin after Tim Drake, and this is the best domestic mass market version we've ever gotten. I really appreciate that McFarlane gave her transparent glasses, and not only is the costume bright and colorful, but they did a great job on articulation for such a small character. The only, and I mean the only thing that holds this figure back for me are the joints for the wrists, and especially the ankles. I could totally see McFarlane reusing this body for an all-star Batman and Robin version of Dick Grayson. If they did, I would hope that they'd take the time to update these, but if the Arkham City Batman's any indication, probably not. If they didn't reuse her for anything, that would be fine with me, because this Robin is good enough to fly solo. Number 8. Gotham Knights Nightwing. Having reviewed the entire Gotham Knights wave, this figure was the standout. As well sculpted and painted as it is, I hate this design for Tim Drake. And if I was making a top 10 least favorite multiverse figures of the year, you can best be sure this one would be on it. What works for me about this figure is it's mostly just Nightwing. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of extra lines and panels and embellishments, but not many. Leastways, the basic gist of him is there. If you missed out on this one and it's maybe a bit out of your range, this one's a fine stand-in. Here he is with 3 Jokers Batman just to prove it. The only reason he's as low as he is because admittedly I'm not that crazy about his face. Also, now that I finally got this one, you can suspect something special is in the works. Number 7. The Arkham City Catwoman. Considering what a mostly glowing review I gave this figure, it might shock you to see how low she is on the list. Once again, I can't speak highly enough of her face. And putting aside all the booty jokes I made, they did do a good job sculpting the details on the costume. The more time I spend with the figure though, the more its problems start to glare at me. I don't think it's possible for me to express any more just how much I hate this diaper, but when you look at her in just a basic vanilla pose, you really start to see just how big her bottom half is compared to her top. And no, that's not just another butt joke. You might be wondering, why is she higher on the list than Nightwing? You could chalk it up to feminine wiles, but really it's more because other Nightwing options exist, whereas this is the only viable super articulated Catwoman we have at this scale. That one doesn't count. Number 6. The Arkham City Ras Al Ghul. Just like Catwoman, he comes in an extra wide collect-to-build window box. One thing that's interesting is that they used digital renders of the figure for Ra's trading card artwork. For the other figures in the wave, they used key art from the game, getting him out of the package, and admittedly there's a lot to love. Just to get this out of the way, the only thing I don't like is his hair. I don't know what they were going for with this, but it does not work. Beyond that, I love all the sculpted and painted detail on the armor. Looking up here, they actually painted the straps and all the nice gold. Same with that really well done demon head. No paint around the middle middle, but good sculpt, and then more brown and gold in the waist, even when you turn him around. I'm also really impressed by these tampoed-on tattoos, most especially the fact that they even include the pegs. Moving down, there's great texture in the pants, and they do look like genuinely baggy fabric. Really clever cuts for the joints there. A little extra paint would have been nice, but the detail on the boots is really great, and I also like his bracers. Because of the hair in the collar, he can't really look up, but he can look down. He can raise his arm just over 90 degrees despite the shoulder piece. No rotator cuff, but he does have bicep swivel and double jointed elbows. In lieu of a diaphragm joint, he has a rubber overlay with some articulation underneath. In tandem with his waist, he can arch back this far and hunch forward this far. It's not much, but honestly, I'm pretty happy that they preserved the sculpt. Moving down, Rage can kick almost 90 degrees, and he can split this far. Not a lot of wiggle in the thigh, but he does have double jointed knees, and McFarlane ankle balls that do all the McFarlane ankle ball things. In addition to the usual trading card and figure stand, he has a really nice scimitar. If anyone can translate down in the comments, I'd love to know what this says. And of course, he can hold that in either hand. Additionally, he comes with Solomon Grundy's arms. For a couple of Batman comparisons, and here we have 3 Jokers in Rebirth. Given how starved we are for Ras Al Ghul figures, I'm happy just to get any in the collection. But again, if the hair was different, he probably would have been higher on my list. It also doesn't help that his face kind of reminds me of Christopher Walken. Just try to unsee that. Number 5, Bane. I will be this top 10 list reckoning. By no means perfect, this Bane is pretty darn close. It's a good basic Bane design with a minimum of added flourish. The tanks and tubes are nicely done. The skin is rough but isn't the gray rhinoceros texture of Last Night on Earth, and the skin has some nice paint modeling on it. So what keeps him from being higher on the list? Oh, you all know. I will be your reckoning, put your tiny hand in mine. These open hands, more specifically the lack of alternate fists, really hurt this figure. A lot of fans also took issue with his lack of neck. So much so that industrious customizers sell kits with neck extensions and fists. As much as I like this figure, I shouldn't have to go to the third party just to make it feel complete. The only thing that will be complete is your... oh, you know the rest. Solid as he may be, there's one Batman Mega Fig from 2022 that I think is a bit better. Number 4, the Arkham Asylum Killer Croc. Admittedly, 2022 gave us a lot of Batman-themed Mega Figs. In terms of bulk and sculpt to detail, Man-Bat is very impressive, but he's let down by the inability to stretch out his wings, really loose ankles that make him constantly fall over, and he's just so big and broad compared to his wings, I kinda wonder how he'd fly at all. I'm a beautiful butterfly! Also, it just occurs to me that Bane is pretty much just Heimlich from A Bug's Life. You all look like ants from up here. Between Man-Bat and Clayface, I like Clayface more, but admittedly I'm not as crazy about his paint scheme, and some of his articulation did leave something to be desired. That's not to say any of them are bad figures, none of them are, but I do like Killer Croc more. The design is ripped straight from the game, which makes sense since McFarlane said they actually sent them the digital models, and there's just a lot more paint to bring out all the detail. The articulation is pretty solid, and unlike Bane, while he does have one open hand, he does at least have a fist. I've been promising a full review of this guy for a while, so I'm not going to cop out now, but until then, suffice it to say he's my favorite Batman-themed Mega Fig of 2022. Number 3, Talon. Ooh, I'm Talon. Or should I say, whoo. Talon comes in a single carded window box. As we can see, they're from the Court of Owls, and on the back we get some pretty nice artwork. If you have this figure, you might be wondering why he's so high on the list, because there are some things wrong with him. I'm pretty sure everyone's commented on his overly long legs, and that was one of the reasons why I put Catwoman so low. Also, looking at his profile, where's the rest of his head? Still, there are a lot of things this figure gets really right, and one in particular that ranks him so high. From the top, and they did a great job on these goggles. The paintwork is nice and crisp and has so much personality. Moving down, I like the silver and gold punched into the bandolier. They did a good job on his, well, talons. And hey, remember this from Batman's Gauntlet and The Batman? And while we're on that subject, remember when every film theorist was just so darn sure the Court of Owls were going to be in that movie? Flipping around to the other side, this other owl gauntlet's been done very well, and there's just enough lines and details throughout to keep him interesting. Articulation-wise, this doesn't really get anything, but since he is an owl, he can look all the way around. By the way, I know that owls don't really turn their head 360 degrees. He can raise his arms up this high, has a rotator cuff, bicep swivel, and double elbow. The new and improved McFarlane wrist ball nicely hidden by the bracer, and then shifting the torso we get a diaphragm joint and dumbbell waist, this far back which is really good, and this far forward which for a DC Multiverse figure is the best I've ever seen. Probably in due to the belt tunic thing he can't really kick that far, and he can't really split that far. Decent twist though, double knee, and the rest Moving on to accessories, and I just want to point out the improvement here. These ones are slid on the sides to be less obvious. Of course, where there's a double scabbard, there's also two swords. Between Ras Al Ghul and the Court of Owls, what is it with Batman villains and scimitars? Either way, they nicely sheath like so. Additionally, Talon comes with two daggers. That equals 4 weapons, which for a DC Multiverse is practically unheard of. Granted, it's technically just doubles of 2 of the same weapon, but still. For the very important Batman comparisons, and here we have 3 Jokers in Rebirth. Hopefully at some point McFarlane gives us a new 52 style Batman. So then, why does this figure in particular rank so high? Well, for one thing, aside from the designer series, it's the only one even close to this scale, but for another, the Talons are the foot soldiers of the Court of Owls. That makes this the very first DC Multiverse army builder. Imagine a League of Assassins Ninja or a Parademon. I'm really hoping in 2023 we start to see more of this, but for now, this is more than enough at number 3. Number 2, the Arkham Knight Scarecrow. Just based on technical quality, this one honestly should probably be number 1. The amount of sculpted and painted detail is uncanny, and I love how they incorporated the leg brace and even changed the articulation to accommodate it. I should also probably point out that this is the gold label version. I wanted this one because it was brown and therefore a little bit closer to my image of the Scarecrow, and honestly that's why I'm picking it for number 2. McFarlane's done a fantastic job of translating this design from the video game, but I'm not that attached to the game. When I picture the Scarecrow, I imagine something a little bit closer to this. It's not my favorite non-Batman Batman multiverse character of 2022, but I do think it is the best. Before getting to number 1, I do want to lift up one honorable mention, the Gotham Knights Red Hood. I went into my Red Hood Versus video disliking this figure from the start. I looked at it and I just did not see Red Hood. As the video went on, I was taken by just how well sculpted and painted it was. I know this one's out there and at some point I really need to do that review, and if there's one thing I can at least say for this one, at least the Arkham Knight version doesn't have finger guns. And my favorite non-Batman Batman DC Multiverse figure of 2022 is gonna be in another video. That's right, this figure is so special it deserves a video all its own. Tune in next time, same bat time, same bat channel. Who do you predict is my number 1? Sound off in the comments below and leave your top 10. For another DC Top 10, check out this video, or for my look at the Mafex Harley Quinn, click here. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again real soon, but until then, play nice and have fun.